Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ghazale Hossein-Abadi, and I would like to welcome you all to the panel discussion of the 6th CSL Student Conference. Today we are going to mainly talk about post-graduation opportunities, namely the academic career path, industry career path, and entrepreneurship. To discuss these topics, we have invited 6 distinguished panelists. Professor Sheila Hemami from Cornell University. Professor Hemami's research interest is on communication of visual information in a signal processing perspective. Our next panelist is Professor Rakesh Kumar from UIUC. Professor Kumar is interested in robust and low power computing, specifically stochastic computing. We then have Professor Gurinder Sohi from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Professor Sohi's research interests are on computer architecture, parallel computing, memory systems, and performance evaluation. Professor Sanjay Lal from Stanford University. Professor Lal's research focuses on the development of advanced engineering methodologies for the design of control systems which occur in a wide variety of aerospace, mechanical, electrical, and chemical systems. Professor Prashant Mehta from Department of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering of UIUC. Professor Mehta's research interests are at the intersection of dynamical systems and control theory, including fundamental limitations in nonlinear control, model reduction of Markov chains, phase transition, and learning in large population games. And we have Professor Andrew Singer from UIUC, and his current research interests include statistical signal processing, adaptive filtering and machine learning, universal prediction, data compression, nonlinear dynamics, and financial modeling. So I would like to begin the discussion by asking the panel a series of questions about the academic career path. So firstly, how can a PhD candidate prepare to pursue a career in academia? When should this process begin? And is there value in pursuing a postdoc position prior to applying for a faculty position? So,
do you just want us to go one by one?
Whatever you prefer.
I'm going to make a suggestion that we each talk for no more than 2 minutes, because otherwise it's just going to be impossible. Or we can go every other person.
That's fine.
Good, thank you for answering. See, faculty are just like students. You ask a question, they look at the ceiling, they look at the floor. Okay, so I'm going to speak for less than 2 minutes on this. The one thing I want to say is, if you think you have an interest in an academic position, and even if you don't, is there a teaching requirement here for you to get your PhDs? Do you have to TA a course? No, I see some yeses and some nos.
No.
So even if there's not, I'm going to recommend that everybody do that, because this is good communication training anyway. And it will at least give you a sense as to whether you think that you like teaching, you think that you could tolerate teaching, or teaching makes you want to jump off the nearest building. And the second thing that I'm going to suggest that you do, if you're thinking about doing that, is get some advising experience. If your faculty advisor has undergraduate students who want to do research with them, ask if you can serve as one of those students' research advisors. And that will give you practice in understanding whether you can constrain yourself from leaping across the desk to strangle the person when they do the 800th stupid thing in the row, or whether you actually can see how you could possibly go forward in an advising role. These are 2 things we generally don't train our future faculty to do, that we have to learn on the job, and I think it's better if you get a little bit of experience while you're a student.
Are we doing every other one?
You're next.
So just to add to what was said, another important thing is developing contacts. When you go out looking for an academic job, they will ask you for a certain number of people that they can get letters from. And you want those letters to be strong, and you want those letters to be somewhat personal in nature. So they can't be, he took a course with me, or she took a course with me and got an A or A+. it has to be something that tells the evaluation committee about either the quality of your research or your quality as an individual. So make sure that during your graduate career you interact with as many people as you can, and try to cultivate a certain number of contacts that can be potential letter writers. Also try to pick your, whenever possible, also try to pick your research projects carefully. I think, just noticing several of my colleagues who graduated, depending on the research direction that they picked, or the research project that they picked, the academic position getting an academic position was easier for some of them than some others. So I would also encourage you to think about how important the subject area would be, 2, 3, 4 years hence when you would graduate.
So my recommendations, first, I'm going to start off by saying about the postdoc thing. It's not clear whether you need to postdoc or not in engineering and computer science. But getting to the other advice, write, because you'll be doing a lot of that when you're a faculty member. You'll be writing proposals, you'll be writing papers, you'll be writing this document, risk document. Write, get feedback, learn how to write concisely, learn how to write well. Help others write, so you can sort of go back and forth on learning. The other thing is, when I was a graduate student, everyone was so busy with their research that they didn't have time to go to other talks that people were giving. Attend every faculty candidate's talk and sit there, even though most of them you know nothing about. Because it is in that process you will learn many things that are going to be important to your own development. If it's in a talk, if you're working in the computing area and the talk is in theoretical computer science, you have no excuse not to go to that talk. Okay, or in any other field related to you, you will learn things that you may find useful in your own research later on.
I'm struggling with what to say on the topic of how to get a faculty position, in part because it's so difficult. I'm on a search committee at Stanford. We have 300 applicants for maybe one position. So it's a tall order. And when you're trying to pick one person out of such a large number of applicants, there's no guarantee you're going to pick the best person. And there's a lot of randomness in the process. So it's not as though you could say there is a deterministic path that's going to get you out the other side of the search process. There isn't. Now, there's lots of things you can do to maximize your chances of success. Give good talks, do good research, build contacts. We've heard some of these things. And you have to think about yourself a little bit as well. Do research that you enjoy. I think that's very important. And that's important when you start out your PhD career and you say, well, what research should I do? Find something you're going to enjoy, because research is tough, and being a PhD student is tough, and getting through the 5 years of it, you need to be motivated, you need to be interested, you need to be excited, you need to be enthusiastic. And the only way to do that is to find something you like doing. I think if you have those things, then that can help you. It's not the only thing that's going to get you through there, but it can help you. You have to give talks about your research and convince other people that it's exciting and that you're good at it. And having some enthusiasm for what you do will help you with that.
Yes, I agree pretty much with everything that everybody has said here. I'd just add that, speaking to sort of Sanjay's point about, it's so tough to land academic position. I think one of the things that you guys could think about doing, or doing more so of, is have a concrete application when you think about research, or you think about research paths as you go forward. And there are a number of ways to do that. It's sort of part educational. Say, for example, you can get into biology, if you listen to President's speech on the State of the Union, he talked about clean energy. You can think about application around energy. But also you can think about internship opportunities that are out there that can help you get more of exposure to application. Instead of thinking about a postdoc, you can think about going to a research center. I mean, I did that before I came here. Industrial environment where you can sort of develop some sort of a breadth in application areas. Coming out of a place like CSL, you probably have a good theoretical sound research, so on and so forth. But having that kind of breadth, I think, can really help you with respect to both your education, but also with respect to having concrete opportunities that you may be particularly well qualified for as you go out to look for something which is very difficult.
Samantha, I have a question.
Yeah.
So did you have coming back to academia in mind when you joined the industry, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, if something drove your decision to join academia once you joined industry, or was it there right from the beginning?
I was always going to come back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we'll speak more about, I guess, industrials, parts.
Yep.
I'll use my 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes, Sheila. Good to see you. What everyone said is fine. Whoever said write. If you don't like writing, then you don't want to be a faculty member, period. The most important thing for anyone that is even considering the idea of being a faculty member is figure out what the job is first. So ask your advisor, ask other professors, look at the job, see if it's something that you would like to do. There are aspects of it that are wonderful, and there are aspects of it that are tedious. And if you find that in the balance it looks like something you really would enjoy, then go for it. And the odds are long, but if you're good and you work at it and you enjoy the prospect, then doing a postdoc, going into industry, doing various things can eventually get you there. But make sure it's what you want, because there are many people that end up in faculty positions that find themselves 5-10 years down the line and realize it really wasn't the right career choice. So that's an important piece.
Is there any question?
So when you all started out as faculty, did you have any concrete ideas that you had a good intuition that these ideas are going to click and maybe I can get a few students to work on? Or was it a little open-ended and after you started you just figured things out and it just worked out? Because there's always this uncertainty that you have some idea, it may or may not work out, and there's a little bit of fear that you're going to appoint some student to work on it, and how do you handle that uncertainty? And
actually, I want to give you a statistic, which is 85% of junior faculty members spend 4 years doing absolutely nothing when they look back on the first 4 years. And only 15% really hit the ground running. Okay? And what causes them to hit the ground running? Mostly luck. Okay? So the best laid plans, may or may not pan out. And I think part of being successful in the job is being able to adapt to the current circumstances and being able to take a proposal that was not funded and twist it around into something with sexy marketing words and sending it to somebody else and doing a dog and pony show and making something out of nothing. But there is a fair amount of luck, getting lucky with students who walk in your door, getting lucky sharing a cab with a program manager,
just continuing along the theme, Mike Tyson once said that everyone has a plan till they're punched in their mouth. So I think you not only need to be able to do the tedious things as a faculty member, you have to have a lot of resilience, I think, because especially when you're doing engineering, a lot of what you're doing is trying to convince other people that your idea is good. Guri has been doing architecture for a long time, and when he was giving his talk, that there are people who would have misgivings, or people who'd have questions about this wonderful idea that he talked about. So when you're doing engineering, you're always trying to convince other people that what you're doing is worthwhile, and sometimes it just doesn't work. else everyone who wanted to be president becomes the president, right? So well, you get punched in the mouth, and then you figure out a different plan, and then you move ahead. And if the statistics are right, then a big fraction of that 85% still manages to make it through.
Correct.
I want to add a couple of things. If you know what you're doing and you're very confident about it, I'd like to meet you. Because it's a rare person that do. Okay, if others are really excited about your stuff that you're doing right now, it's short-term work. It's not going to have long-term impact. If it's something that is much more long-term, then people are just going to say, oh, it's no good. This guy's off his rocker. Okay, it's not going anywhere. I've heard all of that before. And and you need to set yourself a long-term vision and a goal. That's the beauty of an academic. You have the luxury of doing that. Do it. So.
I think there's an idea of research taste, which is necessary here. You have to have some taste as to what makes a good problem, what makes a good piece of research. It's not very easy to say what it is. Some people will tell you it has to be, applied, has to be useful. Some people will tell you it has to be elegant. Some people will tell you it has to be mathematical. People have different ideas as to what good research is, and you have to have your own idea. And believe in that. Drive your research according to what you think is good research. Certainly, if you're going into academia, it seems as though being driven by yourself is a reasonable thing to do. If you wanted to be driven by external incentives, corporate incentives, or financial incentives, then maybe academia is not the right place. But you can escape from that if you're in academia, but you have to do good research. And that means you have to have some idea of what good research is.
One thing I would add is, uncertainty is a big part of a professor's life, at least in the beginning, right? And so when I came here, somebody said that, get used to uncertainty and rejection. And, that's, once you submit proposals, once you work with students, you see that as an assistant professor, and your life will be very different compared to as a grad student. And, sort of having some sort of a breadth when you go for that job, which includes, say, coming back to my original point about having spent some time in industry, having worked with more than one person, can prepare you a little bit better to handle that uncertainty part of it. But that's always going to be there.
When I started a company about 13 years ago, I did so with a colleague, Naresh Shangbach, here at the university. And we looked up what the statistics were for how many pitches you had to give to venture capitalists before you could get financing. And at the time, it was an average of 95 presentations you had to give before you got your first term sheet. And we'd given about, 20 or so. And we had flown to Boston to meet with some VCs, and we got beat up real bad, and they told us our ideas were stupid and we'd never make money, and it was awful. I got food poisoning, and I threw up on the plane on the way back. And when we landed in Champaign, Naresh said to me, "Well, I guess that's it. I guess the company's over." And I looked at him and I said, "Are you kidding? It can only go up from here." That's the kind of attitude you have to be successful in academia. You have to be an entrepreneur, and you have to be able to get excited about what you're doing, no matter who says that what you're doing is a bad idea, no matter who says that you won't succeed. You have to be able to create and drive. And if you're a great researcher and you love working in a big organization where someone tells you a problem to solve and it's a good problem and you can solve it really well, that's fine. Then go work at AT&T or IBM or Microsoft or HP. You'll do well and be happy. If you're the kind of person that doesn't really want to work for someone who tells you what to do, and you get really excited about pursuing your own ideas no matter what, and can always find a way to make it work, and you are always looking at that bright light at the end of the tunnel, then a career in academia makes sense. And there's a strong distinction there. good people can do really, really well who would be terrible in academics, and vice versa.
I just want to follow up on that. There is a sense in which being an academic is quite like being an entrepreneur. You have a lot of the same responsibilities, a lot of the same objectives. You have to raise the money, you have to have an idea, you have to execute and produce something out of that idea, and you have to convince people to buy into it. The only bit that you don't get, which is you get in a startup that you don't get in academia, you don't get the cash coming back into your pocket if it succeeds. But each of those grants that you write that gets funded becomes its own little startup with its own little budget and its own little set of employees and its set of ideas and its set of results. And so there's a lot which is very like running little startup companies.
Is there any other question? So I would like to ask one more question. Based on your experience, how can one prepare to expand his or her research or completely move into a new area?
I'm going to let somebody else go first because I think it's
What was the
easier to go
question?
first.
How can somebody move into a new research area?
So this goes back to the very first question, or the second question from the audience, about how to tailor what you're doing towards an academic position. And at the end of the day, you have no idea whether the first project that you're working on as a graduate student is going to be the sexy hot topic that will get you hired. 15, 20 years ago, if you were working on wireless, you'd get a job anywhere. Today, if you're working on wireless, you'll get a job nowhere. It's just, wireless is solved from the academic perspective, and industry is rolling it all out, so you have to find something else.
He's speaking metaphorically for those of you that are doing wireless.
Including me.
The point is, you have to be able to take whatever it is that you've done and make it sound like the most exciting thing in the world. So you have to be able to do a good talk. And then, if you take a postdoc, if you do a new research project, if you go work at a company, whatever you do, get really excited about it and ask deep questions that can lead to areas that you believe would be exciting and would make you to be, to appear to be the kind of inquisitive person that people would like to hire. After I graduated with my PhD, I worked at Lockheed Martin for a couple of years. I had a lot of fun, and most of what I worked on I couldn't talk about in a job interview, but I did find a couple of pieces of the problems that I could write papers on. And again, if you want to take a job in industry, or if you want to do a postdoc after your PhD, it's a great way to change areas, to find new ideas and to get exposed to new directions. But you have to make sure you continue to publish and write papers. Otherwise, if you have a big hole in your resume, 2 or 3 years without any publications, it'll be difficult to get a job.
Let me again reiterate the importance of going and listening to docs that are not in their area. When people work in an area, they know what can't be done. And it's not until somebody in a completely different, perhaps, who's not been exposed to what can't be done, perhaps comes up with the innovation that really sort of expands the horizons a little bit more. New areas get created by combining knowledge in different areas. Some of the best ideas you can have are, borrowing solutions to a related problem and applying them to a problem in your own area. So if you want to branch out, you really need to go and listen to other people talk.
Having a broad education helps. When you're here, don't just do one thing, right? People who work in controls, they typically get a master's in mathematics, for example. Learning about sort of different areas in math always is useful. Building depth in one particular area in mathematics is always useful, at least in controls, for you to sort of go and deal with other areas. And there are a number of examples in CSL of people who sort of change areas every 5 years. I'm not going to mention. And they sort of break that area and then they go move on to something else. So there are lots of role models for you to sort of talk to, take their courses, so on and so forth.
I think I would advocate a little bit of caution with regard to changing areas. It's at the wrong stage in your career, it can be very dangerous to jump too far from one area to another. You know, research is a social thing, right? There's a community out there that you're talking to, and you don't just write papers and hope that people read them. You write papers and you do research, and then you tell people about them, and your community listens to you. If you drop a field, walk away from your community, and start doing new research in a different community with a different audience, at some point you'll come up for hiring or for tenure or for promotion or for whatever it is, and people will ask people to write letters about you. And then you've got a problem. The two communities don't talk to each other, and the letter writers say, oh, he's done some okay work over in our field, but I think he's more known in that other field. And both fields say that. And then it's over. Then your case is dead. So you need to be careful. If you're going to change fields, that's fine, but keep in mind who your community is and who your audience is.
Yeah, continuing the word of caution, I would say that that going after something hot isn't necessarily a good idea. I think instead of chasing fireflies, if you do want to change the field, it should be because you organically decided that this is an area that you want to work in. So for that, I would recommend, especially to the younger graduate students, that they should work on several self-contained projects, at least initially. That way they keep publishing, and that way they get a breadth and a sense of what is it that they find exciting, and what are the different kinds of problems that people are looking at. And then it has to be organic. What is it that I really want to do? And pick your research area for your PhD thesis only after that. So don't let your advisor, in my mind, pick your thesis topic in your first year. Work on some small self-contained projects first couple of years, and only then make a decision about what is the area that you want to work in. If you do want to change, be aware of the risks. I actually changed somewhat after I came to Illinois. I only used to do computer architecture. Now I do some CAD stuff, and I also do algorithms now. But it's you have to be aware of all the associated risks, and you also have to have some kind of conviction. You have to know that organically this is what makes sense for you to do now. It should not be something like chasing fireflies.
So I'll just conclude by saying I will quote a colleague of mine at Princeton, Margaret Martinozzi, and I don't know where she got this quote from, but she said, research is like a bunch of 8-year-olds playing soccer, right? Everybody is clumped in one place, and then the ball squirts out and goes over there, and everybody runs after the ball, and then the ball squirts out and goes over there, and everybody runs out after that as well. And I think that if you want to build some kind of base that, again, fundamentally, you need to be interested in this, because you're the one that's going to wake up every morning and you're going to be moving your whole research group forward. You should really be enjoying this time of your life, because now if you decide to take a day off and go to Kickapoo and go hiking, it's only your own graduation that you're delaying. When you become a faculty member, you are running a small business, and you can't do that anymore, because there are people who rely on you for their salary and guidance and everything else. I think that it is important to keep in mind, if you want to go to a faculty position, you can't keep doing what you did for your PhD for the entire 6 years leading up to tenure. Okay? You can ride that wave for some amount of time, but you have to do something new to establish that you can branch out and move on. And being able to pick that and throw down the horseshoe far enough away from home that it's evident that you can branch out and do something new, but not to go too far so you've stepped outside of your community is important. And I think as you mature as a researcher, these things will become evident. You will have a good sense of how far you can go. But it's important that you build a group. You're not going to be doing this by yourself. Okay? And people who tell you, yeah, I went in there and man, I did everything by myself and look how successful I am. Okay? They're either lying or they're just delirious. there's no sense in repeating the same mistakes that everybody else made. Talk to people, talk to your peers, get mentorship from senior faculty, keep in touch with your PhD advisor if you have a good relationship with him or her, because they've gone through all of this, and they can tell you, yeah, I made that mistake too. Now here's what you should do.
So after PhD, if you want to enter an academic career, is there a reason to choose one or the other, a postdoc or an industrial research position?
You should pick whatever is going to be most exciting to you. The most important thing, so life is finite. If you haven't figured out that yet, then it's time to learn it. And you should guide your career based on understanding where you'd like to go ultimately. If you want an academic position, then certainly whatever job you take, you should try and find something that excites you, that will motivate you to show passion for your research, or enable you to publish, expose you to new areas. But you also have to enjoy what you're doing, because you don't want to always be driving yourself towards a career that you think you will like someday. When I joined Illinois, Ralph Cutter and I joined at the same time, and we both sort of had the typical discussion that a young assistant professor has. Yes, I was young once. How many papers do I have to write, and how much money do I need to bring in, and what topic should I work on? We decided that all that was garbage, and that we were going to have the career that we really enjoyed while we were here. We were going to do the things that excited us, publish as many papers as we felt we wanted to, work on the projects that we were excited about, so that if after 4 or 5 years they decide to tenure us, then that's great, because now we're in a job that we really enjoy and we're tenured. And if after 4 or 5 years it's decided that what we did was not appropriate for a tenured position in Illinois, then that's great, because that's not the right position for us, and we should go somewhere else and do something else. If you're always chasing something you think you will want someday, then you really should sit down and have a discussion with yourself and figure out what you really want, and then do that.
So, I spent some time in industry before I came here, so I obviously, there'll be your own specific considerations to take into account, but the way you can think about it is, in industry you'll work with many people, right? Probably you'll be exposed to a number of different areas, a number of different kinds of problems, which is not the case probably for a postdoc opportunity. So in a postdoc you probably have a similar relationship as you have with your advisor, but it'd be with your postdoc advisor, right? So people, problems. So more number of people, more different types of problems. Obviously, what you suffer on, or one of the things you suffer on if you want to think about coming back, is publications. So that's the third P in some sense, right? Your publications most likely will suffer, in the sense that the deliverables here are things that we do. We produce our publications, and when you apply for academic position, they do look at that, right? They look at the quality of the work, but they also look at how much you've written. So that's a trade-off that you can think of, right? In terms of short term, publications will suffer a little bit. In the long run, you may build contacts because you know more people. You may get a different sense of sort of the various problem areas. If you think about applications, that's something I mentioned earlier, either energy or bio. There's lots of opportunities in these areas. So going to industry or industrial research center, which does say particular application like energy, if you want to learn more about it, would be a great way, and then go back to academia. Right?
I would say the same thing, perhaps differently. What I would do is, when it comes time for me to graduate, I would look at what may look like the application package, and then look at, I'll show the application package to my advisor, to some senior faculty members, ask them, and also critically assess myself, what is it that's lacking as compared to other people who I admire who recently got jobs. And then if what you think you're lacking is the number of papers, then I would seriously consider, of the two choices, I would seriously consider doing a postdoc at a university because perhaps the person you'd be working with is also trying to frantically publish for his or her promotion or tenure or whatever. If your research area is, let's say, something very theoretical, and what one of your concerns is that, if I join the faculty position, would I be able to raise money? Because I have no idea how my research relates to the real world. Perhaps I may join a group in industry that hires similar people, because more often than not they're trying to make money and therefore have a way to relate what you do with something out in the real world. So in that case, I would probably join industry. Having said that, you may choose to not exercise either of those options because it takes away some of your time, and if you're not willing to pay that opportunity cost, then you don't necessarily have to think in those terms.
Yeah, I don't think you need to make a decision a priori also. I had offers from 3 research labs in several universities, and I picked among the best job. So that's also something that's possible.
Let me add to Rakesh's a little bit. Just coined a new term, pre-doc, rather than postdoc. So you should consider doing a pre-doc too, rather than only a postdoc. And what do I mean by that? It depends on your area. If you go somewhere, there are overheads for you to start up, whether it's a postdoc somewhere else or, in industrial lab or whatever it is. And many a times it may make more sense to do that additional work within the scope of your PhD pre-doc. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I did, and that's what I would advise my students to do. I think there's too much, in my mind, context switch overhead. I spent 6 months I don't know if I should call it a postdoc at Microsoft, but effectively it was paid vacation for me to learn how to ski. So
and finish your paper, probably.
Yeah.
If you choose to go to pre-doc though, come back to us, right? So if you decide to take off to your masters, do come back to CSL, right? For your PhD. Don't go elsewhere. Don't go to Wisconsin, for example, right?
That's fine, stay here. I did too.
So I'd like to make a practical comment. One of the things that you see when you look at faculty applications is you get to, the only thing you're really looking at is people's package, right? Their letters, their CV, their statement of purpose, all this stuff. And I think since it's so competitive, you have to take a slightly strategic approach. You have to. And it helps to look at your application package a little bit in advance before you send it in. There's no point saying, okay, I've got to the end of my PhD, let me just make a little CV which lists every publication I had and everything I did and ship it out. A year before that, you may want to look at it and see what's going to be on it, because you can predict very clearly what's going to be on your CV a year before you graduate. It's all very measurable, all that stuff, how many publications you have, what awards you've won, all that stuff. And you should plan. If you're only going to have one paper, you're not going to have much chance in the faculty search process unless it's a fabulous paper or there's some other stuff that helps you. So there's measurable stuff that's in your application package which you should look at and control. There's unmeasurable stuff, which, okay, it's not so easy. You don't know what people are going to write in their letters. You don't know what the academic community thinks of you. But the measurable stuff, you're responsible for. You need to plan it.
I want to follow up on that, though. There are some things, you don't know what people are going to write in your letters, but one thing that is always amazing to me is people who behave like jerks generally tend not to get jobs. So it's remarkable sometimes the behavior, and we've all seen them, right, of individuals toward other individuals at conferences. I was chairing a session at CISS many years ago, and one of the students in the session I was chairing came up to me before the session and basically insulted everything I had ever done. And I thought, that's interesting. And I've kind of, watched his so-called career since then, and it really hasn't amounted to much because nobody wants to hire the guy. And I wasn't the only one who would receive the blessing of his overly zealous opinions. So we all have to get along, be a little bit smart, right?
All right, our second topic is about exploring the industry career path. So I would like to ask the panel, is there any way by which the graduate education system can better prepare students for careers in industry? For example, do you think more collaboration between industries and students is needed during graduate studies?
Well, so to be successful in a career, all the things we've talked about are important. If you are a jerk and no one wants to work with you, then not only will you not be hired in academia, but few people will want to hire you into their research lab as well. So learning to work with people, learning to work well with people is important. And if you have psychological problems, like some people do, and if it's the person that I'm thinking of that Sheila was referring to, I think that person does actually have psychological problems and is getting medicated. But anyway, to succeed in industry, it's really important that you're able to work well in teams, that you're able to get up to speed on problems quickly. Industry is about, unless you're in a research lab, it's about making money, so there are deadlines and programs. And having a summer job is a great way to figure out if you like that pace. You can try out TI and HP and Lockheed Martin and all these different places. And if you are really good at that environment, and you'll enjoy it, and the folks that you work with will want to hire you. So a great way to prepare yourself for an industrial career while you're doing your research is to go off for a summer and take a job. I found when I was doing my PhD, I worked at Lockheed Martin every summer because they paid me, that was nice. But I always was able to find really interesting research problems that fit well with my PhD work and projects and programs that they were working on. So it was always a win-win. And when I graduated, of course I wanted to go work there because it was so exciting. It was great. If you have a good idea, I found you could go and find someone in Washington to pitch it to, and they'd turn on money and you could work on it. And that was really exciting to me. And if I had not liked that, then I would have known I don't want to go into that kind of career path. So if you have an opportunity, if regardless of your visa, you typically can at least get CPT or some OPT between when you graduate. I strongly encourage trying out working at companies to see if you like it.
So the question was, what do you do?
How can we be
to
better prepared?
I think having a computational component in your education can help. So no matter which industry you go to, you'll be working with computers, you'll be working with simulations, and when people interview you at the industry, that is something that they look for. That's certainly true from where I spent some time. I don't know how to go about this, but sort of having a good communication ability, where you can sort of talk to people who are experts in very, very different areas. So it speaks to the breadth, right, issue. So if you, the place I used to work in, I had to talk to combustion people, right? People who knew nothing about controls, knew a lot about combustion, and I had to sort of be able to understand what they were saying and make them understand what I was saying and be able to work together. I'm not sure what you can do here specifically prepare yourself because there's so many industries with so many different focuses. But I find the communication part of it is always useful.
I agree with everything that's been said. I think there's a tremendous number of opportunities to interact with industry while you're a graduate student. You know, everything from summer positions to the affiliates programs that come to your institution to talk to the faculty and to see what research is going on, to the efforts that are made on both sides, both on the faculty side and on the industry side, to create research, create joint research projects between industry and academia. And all of these things have opportunities for graduate students to get involved. And I think the you know, if very often people say, okay, well, I don't know how to get involved, but faculty are filled with these kinds of opportunities. If a student comes to me and say, well, how can I interact with industry? I can give them a long list of all the things that I'm doing that have some industrial component, and a long list of other people that I know who have some industrial connections, and a long list of companies that have come to us recently and talked to us about things that they want to do. So there's an astounding number of opportunities, and it's only going to broaden your horizons.
So, I also think that that working on many different projects is important if you're considering an industry career path. I know I said the same thing for academic career path, but I think it's even more important if you're considering the industry career path. That's because typically the latitude that you have in terms of the research areas or the kind of projects that you work on is smaller when you join a company, because typically companies are in the business of making profit in a certain area than in academia, and therefore if once you get a chance to work on different kinds of projects, you have a better idea for the kind of company that you may want to work for. So I would encourage the students to work on many varied kinds of projects, because that'll give them an idea for the general research area or general area that they may want to work in a company for.
My advice would be is learn how to have meetings, and more meetings, and meetings to schedule meetings.
You're aware of this book called Death by Meeting?
No, but okay, maybe you should read that book.
Well, let me give you the flip side of that. So my wife has had an industrial career since she graduated. We did our bachelor's together, she did her master's, and then she's been working in industry for, I don't know, a long time. No, a short time, she's very young. But she has noticed that there are people that will come to meetings and basically fall asleep, read their email, pass out, not participate. And we both started our careers at Lockheed Martin, where every 6 minutes of your time is accounted for. You have to charge it to a contract or a grant by law. So at Lockheed and at most defense contractors, people are very conscious of how they're spending every minute. And you don't go to a meeting unless you have a reason to be there. And no one wants you there unless you have a reason to be there, because they have to pay for you to be there. She's managed groups at IBM, Motorola, and now Yahoo. And she is extremely efficient. And she can tell who are going to be the rising stars by the folks that come to the meetings and come prepared. They know what they need to do. They get it done, and then they go off and do their work. Just academia, industry, doesn't matter. If you think going to work is sort of sitting at your desk and falling asleep, there are a lot of jobs like that, but they're not fun ones. You should, try and figure out how you can use every minute to your best advantage. Certainly, if you're stuck in a job where you have a horrible experience with meetings, try and find a way to fix it, or find a different job.
Actually, I would say, if I'm not chairing a meeting, I will only go to 50% of it. Because nobody has ever said to you, oh my God, you missed a great first half of the meeting.
So my other question is that what types of opportunities are available abroad, such as Canada and Europe, and how can students pursue such opportunities?
Opportunities in what?
In industry careers?
Well, nowadays, if you are an international student, there are many companies that are looking to open centers. I'm not talking about call centers, but engineering centers, design centers, in regions of the world, not necessarily that have cheaper labor forces, but that have labor forces that are well-trained and that have a different dynamic than the US. The best place to start a company in the world is Silicon Valley. The worst place to have a company in the world is Silicon Valley. Because within 6 months, every one of your employees wants to leave and find another job somewhere else. And they will, and they're just constantly moving around. Whereas in some communities, like Champaign-Urbana, for example, people work at a company for 10 or 20 years before they think about moving around. So there are great opportunities if you go and work at a big industrial company like an IBM or a Motorola or an HP or a Yahoo, and then you could go and actually be an expat that goes to India to work in a division there. You're Indian, but you're actually going to be paid an expat salary. So you'll be paid as a displaced American to go and run a center or a group in India. And I know a number of people that have found this to be a tremendous way to launch an international career, because it's very easy for them to go and readjust in those opportunities. And such things exist in Singapore, in Korea, in India, in Ireland. I don't know of expat type opportunities in Canada, except way up in the oil sand industry, which doesn't sound fun.
So anybody else want to add?
Right? Don't have experience with it, so I don't know.
Well, I would say, there are obviously opportunities everywhere, and, there are two ways to look at international opportunities. One is, and I think these are both equally valid, one is people, truly want to have some kind of international experience. They say, damn it, I'm going to go do a postdoc in France if my life depends on it, and they will find a postdoc in France so they can go live in France for a year. The other approach is to simply say, well, I want a job, and I'm going to broaden my search horizon outside of North America or the U.S. And I think that's a wonderful experience. Many of you are international students. I think the world would be a better place if more of us in the world would move from point A to point B and spend time living elsewhere. One thing that definitely comes up in an academic position is if you have a known history of being somebody who will take or go to, how can I put this, locations that are maybe a little bit off the beaten path, a lot of opportunities come up for you. I had a Fulbright fellowship in Morocco fall in my lap during my first sabbatical. It's not a place that I would have selected if I had said to myself, boy, let me go apply for a Fulbright lectureship, and I would pick something comfortable in my comfort zone. But it fell in my lap, and I speak French, and of course Morocco was a former French, well, it was ruined by the French, depending on how you look at it, just like Tunisia. And having done that, actually, I have been very fortunate since then to get a tremendous number of invitations from North Africa. I spent 10 days in Tunisia in October visiting some universities there, came away tremendously impressed. It's wonderful to go places, and it's something that I value personally. So I would absolutely encourage it. It's something that we have the luxury of doing with this career path. When you have a PhD, you can do a postdoc, you can take temporary positions elsewhere. Many places even, don't write off lecturers, going somewhere and teaching for 2 years and using that as the opportunity to get some of your writing done. You're all very young, you have the rest of your life ahead of you. There's absolutely no rush to go out and get the job for the rest of your life, and a spouse, and kids, and a mortgage, because you can't go backwards from that, So enjoy yourself. Do something that you might not be able to do 4 or 5 years down the road.
So my last questions are, what suggestions do you have for graduate students who are interested in starting their own company? And in what areas of control, communication, signal processing, and hardware design do you see more opportunities for startups?
So if you want to start a company, first thing, if you're in Illinois, come to the Technology Entrepreneur Center and talk to us. We have a lot of courses that you can take, and we have a lot of programs that can get you involved and exposed in the resources that can get you on the right path. Don't be afraid to start a company. It can be very exciting, can be a lot of fun. But also don't assume that just because you started a company that Google will buy you tomorrow for $1 billion. That seems to be the path that a number of graduate students seem to think to have, that they did their thesis, they wrote a paper, and the paper was accepted, and they even patented it, so therefore Google will buy them for $1 billion. If you're international, there are visa issues, but those can be overcome. But there's a tremendous entrepreneurial community here on campus of other students that are thinking along these lines, and you don't yourself have to have the great idea. You can pair up with other students that are currently working in this direction. It can be a lot of fun. It can be dangerous, but that's okay.
Nothing to say.
I think there are tremendous opportunities there. Speaking from Silicon Valley, I've been involved in a couple of startups now, and it's a question of going out there and initiating it and deciding that you have something to do, getting together with a group of people who can help you. And you're at a university, and a great university. So if you go out there and try and make a pitch and say, I've got an idea and I've got an execution plan, people will listen to you just because they know you're smart and you're coming from a great place, and they know you're coming from a place with lots of resources. Right here, you're surrounded by resources, and if you can't make it work from here when you've got all these advantages, you're not going to make it work when you leave the university and you're someplace else. So a lot of doors will open for you just because of where you are, and the position in your life you are in right now, and the fact that you're at a university, and a great university is going to help you tremendously. Now's the time if you're going to start a company.
I don't have much advice other than, just you're in an environment of learning, and this is the time in your career where you can have opportunities to do all sorts of learning, whether it's the entrepreneurship classes or business classes or finance classes. Expand your horizons over here. Once you leave this place, the opportunities all of a sudden become much more restricted. You have to actually go out and actually seek them. They aren't around you all the time. And then the other recommendation I could have is just your network. You may not have a network, but your alumni community has a network, and leverage that network to really sort of and my personal feeling also, which may not be true, but I strongly believe in it, is you can trust your alumni network more than you can trust some other random people. You can share ideas, get feedback, get mentoring through that network to help you move forward.
It makes a huge difference if you have an idea and you want to pitch it to a VC. Don't just call somebody and say, would you like to listen to my idea? I know you've got money. Just talk to people around you. Almost certainly you'll find somebody who has a contact right away, and they'll be able to say, oh, I know somebody at such and such a VC company, and I'll call them for you, and I'll put you in touch. And I'll put you in touch with the person who's actually interested in that sphere. So, cold calling is a bad idea, and you don't need to from where you are right now.
Another answer is going and taking a job in industry is a great way to find out what's wrong with that particular industry, to find ideas to become a successful entrepreneur. Most successful entrepreneurs don't just graduate, start YouTube, and make $1 billion. Most of them go work in industry, get a little frustrated. They find themselves in meetings where people aren't solving the real problems, but are actually dancing around the actual problem, and they say, I could solve this. And then they go out and they solve it. You can start businesses right out of school, and as a graduate student, you're looking at problems, and maybe you have found something really unique. But taking a job in industry can give you some bit of a nest egg also to get started. It's addicting though. Once you get that regular paycheck, it's hard to then go and cut the strings and say, okay, I'm ready to not have a paycheck and do whatever it takes to get the business going. But it is a good way to find opportunities, to find places where you could solve problems.
I think it's also important not to focus too much on the idea. You find that startups get started and people have an idea and they say, okay, we're going to build this AI system to do this. And then they talk to people and they talk to people and they talk to people and they find no one wants to fund it, or nobody cares, or there's no market, or they find that it's really a bad idea. And then they take that same team and that same energy and they do something completely different. And they've got all these contacts and that company succeeds even though it had nothing to do with the original idea. It's not so much about the idea but about the energy. And don't get hung up on not having an idea, because that might not be where your startup becomes successful. Your startup will become successful because of the people and because of you.
All right, thank you so much everybody for attending. Let's thank our panelists.